Welcome, beloved chosen ones. Take a deep breath. You didn't find this message by chance. You were led here. Because something in your spirit already knows it's time. Time for exposure. Time for reversal. Time for divine justice to walk into the room where lies once ruled unchecked. You've been holding back questions for too long. Why were you always the one under attack? Why did betrayal seem to follow you like a shadow? Why were you always the one they whispered about but could never defeat? Isn't it strange how the people with the most to hide are always the loudest in accusing others? Why is it that those who tried to destroy your name were so confident until the cracks began to show? Have you ever wondered what happens when someone on the inside finally gets fed up and tells the truth? What happens when the silence breaks and their well-protected secrets can no longer be contained? The truth doesn't need defense, but the liars who fear exposure. They rely on manipulation, on silence, on fear, and right now that system is crumbling. Today, someone has had enough. Someone who used to stand beside the deceivers is now standing up. The whisper is turning into a voice, and that voice is about to echo with judgment. Not just karma, God's judgment. Before we dive deep into why you were targeted and how your spiritual authority has always been the threat they feared most, let me take a moment to say this. To everyone who has supported this channel through Super, thanks. Thank you. Deeply, sincerely, wholeheartedly. Your generosity helps carry this message into places where breakthrough is long overdue. And to those who haven't donated but are still here, please know this. Your presence matters just as much. Every listen, every share, every moment of spiritual agreement is fuel for this mission. You are family. Now, if this message is already stirring something inside of you, if you know you're not here by accident, drop 999 in the comments. That number is a prophetic signal that closure is near, judgment has been activated, and exposure has begun. Because today, chosen one, we're talking about why you were always the target, how the spiritual courtroom is now in session, and why the very hands that betrayed you are about to face undeniable consequences. Let's get into it. God's chosen ones, someone's fed up and telling it all. Why you're targeted and God's justice. Number 1, you expose what they spend their entire lives hiding. Chosen one, have you ever noticed how just your presence shifts the entire atmosphere in a room? You don't have to say a word. You don't need to point fingers. And yet, suddenly, people grow nervous, guarded, and defensive. Why is that? It's because your light, your raw, unfiltered honesty, automatically pulls the curtain back on everything they've been trying to hide for years. Your very existence becomes the disruption they can no longer control. You were never trying to expose anyone. You weren't digging into their past or revealing their lies. You were simply being true to yourself, and that truth made their carefully constructed illusions begin to fall apart. Your calmness spoke louder than their performances. Your transparency unsettled their manipulation. Could it be that your grounded authenticity is exactly what they fear most? The same people who pretend to crave truth, healing, and growth often crumble when it finally walks through the door in the form of someone like you. And when you don't perform for their approval, when you carry yourself in quiet confidence without masks, they feel personally attacked, even if you've said nothing at all. Look at Prince Harry. He didn't write his book Spare to destroy anyone. He told his truth, raw and respectfully, but his honesty threatened the royal narrative, and the attacks came fast. Why? Because truth makes illusions tremble. Just like you, he became a target not for what he exposed, but for refusing to play pretend. The Bible says, "For nothing is hidden that will not be made manifest, nor is anything secret that will not be known and come to light. Luke 8:17. And chosen one, you are often the carrier of that light. You walk into dark places and people's internal alarms go off, not because you're loud, but because the truth in you is undeniable. Have you ever wondered why people who barely know you still dislike you? Why people twist your words or lie on your name even when you've done nothing to them? It's because deep down you remind them of what they're running from. You're the living proof that healing is possible and that pretending is no longer enough. Malcolm X once said, "The truth is on the side of the oppressed." And when you embody that truth, when you carry freedom in your energy, it makes people uncomfortable with their own bondage. That's why they label you. That's why they slander you. Because if someone like you can be this free, this grounded, this real, what does that say about the lies they've built their life around? You will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. John 8:32. But not everyone wants freedom. Some have grown addicted to the chains, and when your freedom enters the room, it exposes their captivity. Remember Meghan Markle. Her authenticity, her refusal to shrink, and her insistence on protecting her peace were met with worldwide backlash. But was it really about her? Or was it about how her light disrupted the palace's shadows? Like her, you didn't choose to be a threat. You just refused to lie. The wicked flee, though no one pursues, but the righteous are as bold as a lion. Proverbs 28:1. Chosen one, your presence convicts without condemnation. Your light unsettles those who've grown comfortable in darkness. And for that, they'll make you their enemy. But the truth will always outlast the lie. So when they lie on you, smear your name, or try to cancel your voice, stand firm. Because the Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. Exodus 14:14. The attacks aren't proof that you're wrong. They're confirmation that your truth is powerful. And in a world drowning in performance, your realness is the rebellion that reminds everyone there is another way. Number 2. You are the mirror they cannot escape. Chosen one, what if I told you that your silence speaks louder than their loudest noise? That just by walking into a space, you become the mirror they've spent their whole lives avoiding. You don't have to rebuke them, you don't have to preach. Just your presence causes hidden guilt to bubble up, unhealed wounds to surface, and masks to slip. Why do people change around you so suddenly, going from warm to cold, friendly to distant? Have you ever noticed how some start talking behind your back without provocation? It's not because you exposed them. It's because, around you, their conscience woke up. And that's a mirror they were never ready to face. You carry what they lack: clarity, inner work, alignment. And for people who've spent years constructing a false identity, your authenticity becomes unbearable. You didn't judge them, but your peace made their chaos louder. You didn't accuse them, but your healing made their pain visible. Could it be that your growth reminds them they stopped growing? The story of Maya Angelou reflects this truth. She lived with quiet dignity and piercing wisdom. She didn't point fingers, but her words, her presence, her integrity revealed the truths society tried to ignore. She was a mirror, and like her, chosen one, so are you. But all things become visible when they are exposed by the light, for everything that becomes visible is light. Ephesians 5:13. Your light doesn't scream, it reveals. And that revelation causes the people still in shadows to react in fear, shame, or defense. Do you wonder why some people were fine with you until you started evolving, until you stopped dimming your light to make them comfortable? That's when the shift happened, because your growth meant they could no longer avoid theirs. You became the problem the moment you stopped pretending. Take Michael Jackson, for instance. His art was raw reflection. His lyrics and life mirrored society's contradictions, its racism, its judgment, its obsession with image. And though he changed the world through music, he was also vilified. Not because of crimes, but because of what he exposed, the hypocrisy in plain sight. Therefore, judge nothing before the appointed time. Wait until the Lord comes. He will bring to light what is hidden in darkness and will expose the motives of the heart. 1 Corinthians 4:5. And often, God uses chosen ones like you as part of that exposure. Your growth, your discipline, your refusal to play small, it's not aggression, it's awakening. But when people are still sleeping, even light feels like violence. So they mislabel you, arrogant, too much, cold. But their labels say more about their discomfort than your character. Nelson Mandela spent decades in silence, then rose to speak with grace. He didn't condemn his captors, but his dignity exposed their cruelty. His leadership became a mirror. That mirror shook a nation into repentance. Chosen. 1. Never underestimate the quiet power of being who you are. Let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven. Matthew 5:16. You don't shine to boast, you shine because God made you luminous. And in your light, truth becomes visible. So when they walk away, gossip or act strange, don't absorb it. They're not reacting to you, they're reacting to the version of themselves that your presence makes impossible to ignore. You are the mirror they can't escape, and the only people who fear mirrors are the ones hiding from what they'll see. Number 3, they can't control you, and that makes you a threat in every system. Chosen one, have you ever wondered why people seem to either admire you or want to silence you? Why, in environments where everyone else plays by unspoken rules of pretense, you're seen as the disruption? It's not because you're combative. It's not because you're rude. It's because you can't be controlled. And in systems built on power, control is everything. Control is the currency of every corrupted structure, be it family expectations, religious institutions, toxic workplaces, or manipulative relationships. These systems weren't designed for truth tellers. They were designed for those who follow scripts, wear masks, and keep the status quo untouched. And when you show up, unapologetically aligned with your truth, you make the entire system uncomfortable. Have you noticed how some people start turning cold the moment you start asking real questions? You don't fake your peace. You don't laugh to blend in. You don't call dysfunction normal. And you certainly don't stay silent when your spirit knows something's off. You honor your convictions, even if it makes others uncomfortable. That's why you're dangerous. You aren't easily dazzled by status, credentials, or smooth words. You see through performance. You listen with your discernment. That terrifies them. Consider Rosa Parks. She didn't yell, she didn't fight. She just said no to giving up her seat, and the system shook. Her refusal to submit was so powerful that it ignited a civil rights movement. Like her, you don't need to cause chaos to be a threat. Your simple refusal to be manipulated is a revolution in itself. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Romans 12:2. That's what you're doing, chosen one. You're not rebelling for attention. You're resisting conformity. And those who need control can't handle someone who doesn't bend to their games. Do you ever feel like you're being labeled rebellious or hard to work with? But deep down, you know all you did was say no to something your spirit couldn't agree with. That's not rebellion, that's integrity. But because most people are too afraid to choose themselves, they demonize those who do. Steve Jobs was fired from his own company because he wouldn't compromise vision for comfort. He was called difficult, stubborn, impossible to manage. But years later, they begged him to return, and he turned Apple into a global phenomenon. Chosen one, your refusal to conform may get you rejected at first, but later it will be the very thing they can't succeed without. It is better to obey God rather than men, Acts 5:29. And you've chosen obedience, not to ego or institutions, but to your Creator, your calling, and your conscience. That makes you a threat to any system built on manipulation, not truth. You're not the problem. You're the permission slip others needed, but were too afraid to take. You show people what it looks like to be free, and that's threatening in a world that survives on silent submission. People who crave power need someone to dominate, and when you show up and don't bow, they panic. Like Serena Williams, whose power and voice were often labeled aggressive, when in truth she was setting boundaries that others didn't have the courage to speak. Her excellence disrupted the comfort zone of those who assumed they could control her. You do the same just by walking in alignment. The fear of man lays a snare, but whoever trusts in the Lord is safe. Proverbs 29:25. You're safe, chosen one, not because you avoid conflict, but because you stand in truth. And truth doesn't flinch when it's not liked. You may not fit in, but you were never meant to. You were sent to break systems of false peace built on fear. You were sent to challenge comfort zones pretending to be healing. And for that, yes, you'll be misunderstood, but you'll also be unstoppable. Number 4, God has been letting them dig their own graves in public. Chosen one, have you ever sat back in silence watching people plot, scheme, lie, and twist things about you, only to wonder why God wasn't striking them down instantly? Why the heavens seemed so still while your name was being dragged? Here's the truth. God wasn't ignoring you. He was strategizing. Divine justice doesn't always show up with thunder. Sometimes it shows up as exposure, slow, undeniable, irreversible. God didn't need to send fire. He simply stepped aside and let their own pride, ego, and deceit do the work for him. Every word they spoke in malice, every exaggerated lie, every smear campaign was a rope they unknowingly tightened around themselves. Do not be deceived. God is not mocked, for whatever one sows, that will he also reap. Galatians 6:7. They thought they were burying you, but they were planting seeds of their own downfall. Remember when Johnny Depp went through years of public ridicule, lies, and career collapse because of false accusations? He remained mostly silent, but when the truth surfaced, it came like a tidal wave, public, undeniable, and shattering the very narratives used to destroy him. That's divine exposure. That's what happens when God lets someone dig too deep. Have you noticed their stories starting to unravel? The same people who cried victim are now being questioned. Their tones changed. Their support is fading. People are waking up because God has a way of letting falsehoods collapse on their own. And when the collapse comes, it's not subtle, it's spectacular. The Lord works righteousness and justice for all who are oppressed. Psalm 103 verse 6. Chosen one, your silence was never weakness. It was obedience. God said, stand still. And now he's doing the revealing. They tried to keep their image intact. They tried to convince others that you were the villain. But the more they talk, the more the truth leaks through their desperation. Gossip turned into exposure. Defense turned into confession. And now they're running out of room to hide. Look at Lance Armstrong. Years of denial, manipulation, and public performance finally crumbled under the weight of truth. And when the exposure hit, it wasn't just private, it was global. The same public stage he used to build his image became the place of his undoing. For the Lord, your God, is the one who goes with you to fight for you against your enemies to give you victory. Deuteronomy 24. You never needed revenge. You needed patience. And now God is making it clear. No lie will outlive the truth you carry. Think about Monica Lewinsky. For years she was publicly shamed while others maintained their power. But as time passed, the world began to see what was really happening. She's now respected for her strength and transparency, while those who scapegoated her are no longer hiding behind their power. What buried her image at first became the soil where her voice grew strong. He will bring to light what is hidden in darkness and will expose the motives of the heart. 1 Corinthians 4:5. Exposure is a divine act, and when it comes, it reveals not just what people did, but why they did it. That's why their stories are falling apart now, because God's justice goes deeper than facts. It touches motive. Chosen one, you didn't have to defend yourself. Heaven did that for you, and now, as their false thrones collapse, it's not just vindication for you, it's a lesson for the watchers, the ones who doubted you, the ones who stayed silent. They're watching too, and they're realizing the truth has always had your name on it. Number 5. You're the proof that God doesn't choose the qualified. He qualifies the chosen. Chosen one, have you ever wondered why people can't seem to explain your rise? Why they keep asking, why them and not me? It's because your very existence destroys the myth they've been feeding themselves their whole lives. That favor must be earned, that calling requires credentials, that elevation only comes through recognition from man. But your life is the evidence that God's ways are higher. You didn't chase influence. You didn't beg for favor. You didn't mold yourself to fit the expectations of others. You were just honest, raw, real, and God still anointed you. What does that say about the systems built on performance and pride? Could it be that God was never looking for perfection, but for availability? Brothers and sisters, think of what you were when you were called. Not many of you were wise by human standards, but God chose the foolish things of the world to shame the wise. 1 Corinthians 1:26-27. That's you. You are the divine disruption in their well-polished blueprint. Look at Oprah Winfrey, born into poverty, abused, underestimated. She didn't check the boxes of chosen by society's standards, but her voice broke generational chains. Her authenticity became a platform. She didn't fake humility. She carried spiritual authority. And like you, she was elevated in the places others thought she didn't belong. They hate that your influence wasn't bought, that your power wasn't manufactured. They did everything right, and yet your light shines brighter. Why? Because the oil of God doesn't respond to manipulation. It responds to surrender. You did not choose me, but I chose you and appointed you so that you might go and bear fruit. John 15:16. You didn't come through their doors. You weren't knighted by their approval, but heaven wrote your name down anyway. Think about Tyler Perry, homeless, ridiculed, ignored, yet God gave him visions that Hollywood laughed at. Today, his studios are built on land once used by Confederate armies, a physical reminder that favor can't be blocked when God ordains it. Do you realize how threatening that is to those who built their entire identity on being the most qualified? The ones who prided themselves on degrees, titles, and curated images now have to sit and watch as God lifts the one they tried to overlook. That's you. The stone the builders rejected has become the cornerstone. Psalm 118:22. You were never supposed to fit their mold. That's why you became the model. They resent that you didn't follow the crowd, you didn't perform, didn't campaign, didn't manipulate. Yet somehow, heaven's favor fell on you. That kind of grace breaks their illusion of control. It shatters the idea that they get to decide who is worthy of being used by God. Consider Viola Davis, someone who was overlooked because she didn't fit the leading lady mold. But her raw talent, authenticity, and unshakable spirit forced the world to shift. She didn't play the game and still won, just like you. But the Lord said to Samuel, "Do not look at his appearance. For God sees not as man sees, for man looks at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart." 1 Samuel 16:7. That's why they can't understand your favor. They keep looking at your resume, but God saw your heart. Chosen one, you are living proof that God doesn't need permission from people to promote his own. You didn't ask for the spotlight. You carried light in the shadows, and that was enough. Now they have no choice but to watch the elevation they thought they could prevent unfold, without apology, without explanation, without their signature of approval. Number 6, they are spiritually malnourished, and you walk in as the feast. Chosen one, have you ever noticed the strange hunger in their eyes when you speak, when you walk in the room, when you simply sit in stillness? It's not envy in the usual sense, it's starvation. They're not feeding on truth, so they crave what's real when they see it. And you walk in with the aroma of heaven. You are the banquet they never learned how to digest. They've spent years consuming shallow pleasures, titles, status, shallow applause, conditional love. But none of it satisfies. So when you enter with real joy, real peace, real clarity, it confuses and frustrates them. Could it be that your alignment is a mirror to their disconnection? Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Matthew 5:6. You've been filled because you sought what they ignored. They chased image, you chased truth, and now you're overflowing while they're spiritually empty. Have you seen how some people try to copy you, mimic your speech, your style, your spiritual language, but it still doesn't hit? That's because they want the fruit without the root. They want what you carry without carrying what you've been through. Consider Heath Ledger. In trying to dive deep into the spirit of his roles, especially the Joker, he stepped into spiritual territory without covering, without grounding. The weight broke him. Why? Because depth without foundation will always crush you. You, chosen one, were built differently. You didn't skip the inner work. You are anchored. The person without the Spirit does not accept the things that come from the Spirit of God, and they cannot understand them because they are discerned only through the Spirit. 1 Corinthians 2:14. That's why they can't get you. They're trying to decode a frequency only the Holy Spirit can tune into. You've seen it. People trying to leech off your presence, hoping it will heal their anxiety, their emptiness, but instead they grow more bitter. Why? Because you can't fake divine alignment, and purity burns when it touches impurity. Princess Diana walked with unmatched grace, and yet the world couldn't understand why her light upset so many. She was hunted, not because she was loud, but because she carried purity into corrupted spaces. You too are that kind of sacred disruption. Taste and see that the Lord is good. Blessed is the one who takes refuge in him. Psalm 34:8. You're a walking invitation to something deeper, but they don't want to taste God. They want to taste you. And that misdirected hunger always leads to choking. Take Brittany Murphy. Her glow was unmistakable, but in a world obsessed with extracting rather than protecting, her light was consumed rather than nourished. You must protect your energy, chosen one. Not everyone starving deserves your table. Do not cast your pearls before swine, or they will trample them underfoot and turn and tear you to pieces. Matthew 7:6. Your energy is not public property. It is sacred. And when you protect it, you protect your purpose. You didn't come to be consumed. You came to shine. You are not their emotional pantry. You are heaven's signal that there is a better way. And when they try to devour you without reverence, it backfires, because your presence is consecrated, and it was never meant for counterfeit communion. Number 7. You were chosen to expose what looks normal, but was always demonic. Chosen one, have you ever looked around and felt a holy discomfort, as if something beneath the surface of normal was never right, but no one else seemed to notice, or worse, no one dared to speak up? That feeling was never your imagination, it was your anointing. You weren't sent to blend in. You were sent to interrupt what others have blindly accepted. Your role is not to go along with the program, it's to disrupt the program. You weren't chosen to be quiet. You were chosen to shine light on what has been carefully hidden in plain sight, and that calling alone has made you a target. But have you ever paused and asked yourself, why does your presence alone feel like an alarm bell in rooms filled with important people? Could it be that you were chosen to expose what others worship? Take no part in the unfruitful works of darkness, but instead expose them. Ephesians 5:11. And that is exactly what your existence does, without fanfare, without accusation. Your clarity, your discernment, your refusal to bow to corruption makes you dangerous to a world addicted to deception. Look at whistleblower Edward Snowden. He was just one man who told the truth, and governments panicked, not because he shouted the loudest, but because what he revealed broke the illusion of trust. He exposed hidden contracts behind the systems people depended on, just like you. Society loves its idols, wealthy influencers, polished preachers, charming celebrities. But beneath the glow, many are spiritual criminals, glorified performers signing contracts with darkness for influence and control. And God chose you, the overlooked, the too quiet, the too intense to call out what others worship blindly. Isn't it ironic? The very ones dismissed as weird are the ones carrying the clearest spiritual vision. You are the light of the world. A city on a hill cannot be hidden. Matthew 5:14. But when your light starts exposing their shadows, the pushback begins. The warfare intensifies. Why? Because idols can't survive in the presence of revelation. Think about Chadwick Boseman. He carried himself with grace, humility, and purpose. Behind the scenes, he battled cancer, yet never used it for attention. He rejected roles that misrepresented his people. His presence alone exposed the entertainment industry's obsession with exploitation. His life was a divine mirror, and so is yours. Have you noticed how people get uncomfortable when you question the system? Why they call you too much, too deep, too spiritual? It's not your intensity, it's your insight. They don't want the illusion shattered, but you were born to tear it down. Woe to those who call evil good and good evil, who put darkness for light and light for darkness. Isaiah 5:20. Chosen one, this is the generation God is using you to confront. They've called corruption success, deception, strategy, and manipulation leadership. And you, just by standing firm in the truth, are flipping the table. Think of Bob Marley. He didn't just sing, he prophesied. His lyrics exposed injustice, spiritual blindness, and the fake peace built on silence. They tried to silence him, but his voice became a global frequency of truth. You carry the same spiritual disruption. You are music to heaven and interference to hell. Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid, for the Lord your God goes with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you. Deuteronomy 31:6. That courage you feel stirring inside you, it's not pride, it's prophecy. You're not just waking up, you're the wake-up call. So when systems collapse, when idols fall, when masks melt, don't panic. You weren't sent to maintain comfort, you were sent to expose false peace. And now that the world sees you for who you are, they can't unsee it. And neither can the ones you were sent to expose. Number 8. God allowed their attacks because your clean record is your legal weapon. Chosen one, Have you ever wondered why God didn't strike down your enemies the moment they rose against you? Why He let the lies fly, the gossip grow, the slander spread? It wasn't abandonment, it was strategy. While they were plotting your downfall, God was building your case. Every word they used against you became evidence in heaven's courtroom. The Lord is a God of justice. Blessed are all who wait for Him. Isaiah 30:18. Your waiting wasn't passive, it was preparation. Your silence wasn't weakness, it was obedience. God was allowing their pride to expose itself in full. And when divine justice comes, it leaves no question about who was righteous and who was wicked. Do you recall Nelson Mandela? He sat in prison for 27 years, falsely accused, misunderstood, defamed, but his integrity was preserved, and when justice came, it was undeniable. He didn't fight with words. He let his record speak, just like you will. You will keep in perfect peace those whose minds are steadfast because they trust in you. Isaiah 26:3. You trusted God, and because you didn't retaliate, your clean hands became your courtroom advantage. Think about how often they tried to bait you, to get you to clap back, to curse them out, to defend yourself online. But something in your spirit said, no, that wasn't cowardice, it was divine restraint. And now, that silence is screaming on your behalf. Vengeance is mine, I will repay, says the Lord. Romans 12:19. And when God repays, it is surgical. He doesn't just restore your name, He reveals the schemes that tried to destroy it. Every attack that didn't stick becomes part of your testimony. Every lie that didn't land becomes part of their collapse. Look at Amanda Knox, vilified in global media, falsely convicted, dragged through the mud. But when the truth emerged, it was undeniable, and her innocence shone brighter than the slander ever could. Your story is carrying that same weight of divine reversal. Have you asked yourself, why am I still standing? After all that's been said and done, after all they tried to ruin? That's not luck. That's legality, in the Spirit. God was preparing your case with every unjust accusation. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. Exodus 14:14. You didn't have to fight in public because your victory was secured in private. And now the gavel is falling, and the very lies they threw like daggers are becoming boomerangs of judgment. And don't forget Colin Kaepernick. He was vilified, blacklisted, silenced, but he never responded with venom. His clean record is what preserved his legacy. Time revealed everything, and it always does, just like it will for you. Chosen one, your innocence is more than a shield. It's a sword, and it's cutting through the lies now. The silence you endured is becoming the sound of divine justice roaring on your behalf. The ones who laughed last will soon have to explain first. Number 9. They were sent to steal your destiny, but they activated your authority instead. Chosen one, have you ever looked back at the people who came against you and wondered, was that really about me or about what I carry? The truth is, it was never about the surface. It was always spiritual. It was about the assignment on your life. From the moment you stepped into this world, something in the unseen recognized your value and tried to stop it before it could bloom. But what they didn't realize is that in trying to kill your calling, they only awakened it. They didn't randomly choose to target you. They saw the divine mark on your life. Even if you didn't see it yet, they sensed it. So what did they do? They launched attacks meant to strip you of confidence, sabotage your relationships, discredit your name, and confuse your sense of direction. But instead of weakening you, those very attacks triggered the sleeping authority inside your soul. Have you ever considered that the very thing they thought would destroy you became the reason you discovered who you really are? You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good, to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives. Genesis 50:20. What they meant to steal has become your strength. What they meant to bury has become your banner. Look at Viktor Frankl, imprisoned in a Nazi concentration camp, stripped of family and freedom. He was supposed to die with his spirit broken. But out of that suffering came man's search for meaning, a work that birthed a new dimension of psychology and purpose for generations. The attack didn't steal his destiny, it activated his authority, just like it did for you. Have you ever asked, why did it have to be this hard? Could it be that the pressure was proof of what you carry? The enemy doesn't waste energy attacking the irrelevant. They feared your potential, so they tried to dismantle you before you could rise. But with every blow, your divine fire grew. See, I have refined you, though not as silver. I have tested you in the furnace of affliction. Isaiah 48:10. What felt like destruction was actually divine refinement. You weren't being ruined. You were being revealed. Think of Nelson Mandela. They imprisoned his body, thinking that would silence his mission. Instead, it magnified it. His authority didn't shrink, it multiplied. Because authority from God doesn't depend on freedom, fame, or comfort. It's forged in fire, and you, chosen one, have walked through it. And after you have suffered a little while, the God of all grace will himself restore you and make you strong, firm, and steadfast. 1 Peter 5:10. You didn't just survive, you were rebuilt, stronger, sharper, unshakable. Do you notice how every lie only made your truth louder? How every plot only pushed you deeper into purpose? That's not coincidence, that's divine reversal. What they tried to steal, they've only confirmed. You are walking evidence that God qualifies those he calls, and he calls those the world tried to cancel. Look at Bethany Hamilton, the professional surfer who lost her arm in a shark attack. That tragedy was supposed to end her future. Instead, she came back stronger, competed again, and inspired millions. Her loss became the spark for her authority. That's exactly what's happening with you. No weapon formed against you shall prosper, and every tongue that rises against you in judgment you shall condemn. Isaiah 54:17. Chosen one, they didn't know you were born with unstealable purpose. But now they do, and it terrifies them. What they tried to rob, heaven already returned. Pressed down, shaken together and running over. You're not just restored, you're reigning. You're not just healed, you're crowned. You were the target, but now you are the testimony. Number 10. They thought God forgot about you, but he was letting the scene get loud enough for public exposure. Chosen one, have you ever sat in silence while your name was dragged through the mud, wondering if God was watching it all? Have you cried behind closed doors, begging heaven for justice that never seemed to come? They assumed your stillness meant surrender, but you knew something they didn't. God was letting the story get loud enough to be undeniable. They thought they were winning. They laughed while spreading rumors. They whispered your name with contempt, never imagining the day would come when every lie would be replayed in front of the very audience they manipulated. Why didn't God stop them earlier? Because this isn't just vindication, it's divine revelation. For there is nothing hidden that will not be disclosed, and nothing concealed that will not be known or brought out into the open. Luke 8:17. The longer it went on, the bigger the stage. The louder the gossip, the clearer the contrast when truth finally speaks. Consider Monica Lewinsky. For years her name was synonymous with scandal, while others hid behind power. But God let time move. And as truth unfolded, public opinion flipped. The world began to see not just a headline, but a human. The ones who watched her suffer in silence now see the strength she carried. And that's what's happening with you. Do you realize that the delay wasn't denial? It was design. God didn't act in haste because he was letting the evidence stack. He was letting the scene fill with noise so that when he drops the truth, even the blind will see and the proud will fall. Be still before the Lord and wait patiently for him. For those who are evil will be destroyed, but those who hope in the Lord will inherit the land. Psalm 37:7-9. Your patience wasn't wasted. It was prophetic. You're not getting private closure, you're receiving public revelation. Look at Tiger Woods. When his private failures exploded publicly, people thought he was done. But the longer he stayed silent, the more powerful his comeback became. Eventually, he didn't just return. He redefined what it meant to rise. His redemption wasn't quiet. It was legendary. Yours will be too. The Lord is not slow in keeping his promise. Instead, he is patient, not wanting anyone to perish, but everyone to come to repentance. 2 Peter 3:9. God's delay is often his mercy, but when justice finally arrives, it leaves no room for denial. Have you noticed the shift? How people who once doubted you are starting to ask questions. Wait, maybe they were right. That's not your voice. That's the echo of heaven making sure the truth can't be ignored. Think of Meghan Markle. She endured slander for years, called every name under the sun, until she finally spoke her truth. The world didn't just see a woman, they saw a system. And now the ones who tried to break her are being forced into the spotlight they once weaponized. Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord rises upon you. Isaiah 61. Your time is here, not just for personal healing, but for public revealing. They thought God was absent, but he was building the tension, letting the scene crescendo until no one could say, "We didn't know." The curtain is about to fall, and when it does, it won't just be your vindication, it will be their exposure, and it will be loud. Number 11. Your life triggered their generational demons. Chosen one, have you ever walked into a room and instantly felt the tension shift? You didn't speak, you didn't provoke, you just existed. And suddenly, eyes narrowed, backs turned, and hostility rose from nowhere. Why did that happen? Because what you carry in your spirit didn't just offend them. It shook centuries of spiritual contracts their bloodline has never dared to confront. This battle wasn't about your personality, it was about your presence. Your very existence activated war in the unseen. Why do you think they came so hard, so irrationally, so quickly? Could it be that you weren't just confronting individuals, but ancestral agreements that were passed down like inheritance? For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. Ephesians 6:12. That's why it's been so intense. You thought it was personal, but it was ancient. Look at Martin Luther King Jr. He wasn't just resisting a government, he was confronting centuries of demonic racism embedded in a nation's structure. His words didn't just anger men, they disturbed principalities. He wasn't simply a speaker, he was a breaker of covenants, just like you. Have you wondered why certain families seem trained to hate you before they even know you? Why gossip spreads faster than truth? It's because you carry the vibration of freedom, and their lineage has only known bondage. Your light exposes the darkness they were taught to protect. It's not you they hate. It's what your presence demands: accountability, repentance, and release. The weapons of our warfare are not carnal but mighty through God to the pulling down of strongholds. 2 Corinthians 10:4. That's why you were chosen. You weren't sent to maintain traditions built on pain. You were sent to interrupt them. Think of Frida Kahlo. Her very presence shattered the cultural molds around femininity, suffering, and self-expression. She was hated, misunderstood, even feared. But it wasn't her body that disturbed people. It was her refusal to hide. Her life exposed unspoken generational trauma, and yours does too. Have you noticed how people try to project onto you make you out to be arrogant, rebellious, too different. That's not feedback, that's reaction. You awakened spirits they thought were dormant. You rattled altars they didn't know they had. They will fight against you, but will not overcome you, for I am with you and will rescue you, declares the Lord. Jeremiah 1:19. God didn't just place you in these rooms to survive. He placed you there to confront and transform. Bob Marley once said, "You never know how strong you are until being strong is your only choice." He wasn't just singing reggae, he was calling out colonialism, awakening pride, and disturbing systems designed to suppress. He triggered demons in nations, and he never had to raise his voice to do it. Neither do you. He has sent me to proclaim freedom for the captives and release from darkness for the prisoners. Isaiah 61:1. You're not just a person, you're a divine key. And when you walk into cursed bloodlines, chains rattle. So no, it's not your fault they hate you. It's not about your attitude. You're the crack in their spiritual fortress. You are the breach in the wall. And when you show up, every generational spirit that ruled unchallenged for decades begins to tremble. Because you weren't sent to coexist. You were sent to end the cycle. Number 12. You were never meant to fit in. You were sent to be the evidence. Chosen one, have you spent years asking, why don't I belong anywhere? Have you tried to shrink, to blend, to soften your truth just to avoid being the outcast? Deep down, you've always known you weren't wired like everyone else. That wasn't rejection. That was revelation. You were never meant to fit. You were meant to prove. You're not here to be accepted. You're here to be evidence. Evidence that God still calls, still appoints, still sets people apart for something divine. Your very existence breaks the myth that favor requires permission. You walk in and suddenly people start questioning what they believed about power, religion, identity, and they should. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. Jeremiah 1:5. That's not metaphor. That's your DNA. You were custom built to contrast the counterfeit. Look at Lady Gaga. Her style, her art, her fearlessness in expression disrupted every industry norm. They called her strange, but she became a global icon by refusing to blend in. Her presence redefined acceptable. You do the same in the spiritual. Have you noticed how early the warfare started? Before you even had language for your identity, rejection showed up. Why? Because hell doesn't wait for maturity to launch its attack. It targets destiny at the seed level. You weren't just bullied, you were targeted because your future terrified the forces assigned to stop you. Even before a word is on my tongue, behold, O Lord, you know it altogether. Psalm 139, verse 4. God knew you before the fight ever started. And that's why he let the pressure reveal the diamond, not destroy it. Look at Simone Biles. From a young age, the world watched her with awe and pressure. She faced scrutiny, sabotage, and expectation most adults couldn't bear. But she stood anyway. Her very success challenged generational ideas of what strength, control, and femininity should look like. She became evidence. So do you. Have you asked, why can't I just be normal? Because normal is overrated when you were created to be a sign. You're the walking contradiction to every fake system built on performance. You prove that obedience trumps approval. You prove that power comes from purpose, not applause. Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind. Romans 12:2. You're not here to copy, you're here to confront. You're not a replica. You are the original blueprint, heaven sent to challenge the counterfeit. Malala Yousafzai was never meant to fit the mold. As a teenage girl speaking truth in a culture of suppression, she was shot, yet survived to win the Nobel Peace Prize. Why? Because evidence cannot be erased. And like her, your voice carries eternal weight. You are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, God's special possession, that you may declare the praises of him who called you out of darkness into his marvelous light. 1 Peter 2:9. That's who you are. Not forgotten, not overlooked, chosen evidence. So the next time they stare, gossip, or withdraw, don't question your identity. Remember, you weren't built to blend. You were born to break the mold. You are the contradiction they can't explain, the prophecy they can't deny, and the reminder that God doesn't need their system to approve his glory. Number 13. God is not just punishing them, he's making them witnesses. Chosen one, have you ever wondered why the people who tried to humiliate you still haven't disappeared? Why God didn't just remove them quietly from your story? It's because part of their judgment is to watch you rise. God isn't only vindicating you, he's positioning you as undeniable proof. They don't just lose what they tried to steal. They're being forced to witness you receive everything they said you'd never have. Have you questioned why God allowed them to sit in the front row of your restoration? Could it be that their shame must be exposed in the same way they tried to publicly shame you? This is divine justice with surgical precision. Not only will you win, but they will have to watch you win, without being able to stop it. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Psalm 23:5. God could have done it privately, but he chose to set the table right in front of those who doubted your worth. Consider the story of Joseph, betrayed by his brothers, sold into slavery, falsely accused, yet he rose to power, and when famine hit, the same brothers who betrayed him came begging. They didn't just see his success, they were required to honor the one they tried to erase. That's exactly what's happening with you. Do you remember the ones who tried to silence you, who mocked your faith, twisted your words, plotted in secret? They're now watching your doors open, your gifts multiply, your favor overflow, and they can't look away. Why? Because watching you rise is part of the consequence. But as for you, you meant evil against me, but God meant it for good. Genesis 50:20. That's not just poetic justice, that's prophetic reversal. Think of Serena Williams, ridiculed for her strength, criticized for her confidence, underestimated at every turn. But she didn't quit, she didn't yell back, she won, and now the world watches in awe. The same critics who rolled their eyes are now on the sidelines, speechless. Have you asked, why are they still here? It's because God turned them into witnesses. They don't get to escape into silence. They get a divine front row seat to the glory they said would never come. The Lord has made everything for its own purpose, even the wicked for a day of disaster. Proverbs 16:4. Their presence in your comeback isn't a mistake. It's part of the design. Their downfall is not just in losing. It's in being unable to deny your rise. Take Tyler Perry, rejected, homeless, ignored, but when he built his own studio, he did it on land that once housed Confederate soldiers, and who had to acknowledge him? The very institutions that once rejected him. That's what divine reversal looks like. The Lord will vindicate me. Your love, Lord, endures forever. Psalm 138:8. Your vindication isn't just personal, it's public, and those who tried to mock your calling are now assigned by heaven to be witnesses of your anointing. Chosen one, watching you thrive is their sentence, and God made sure the curtain stayed open long enough for every eye to see. So when the applause comes, there'll be no confusion. You didn't force this win. God authored it, and he made sure they saw every part of it. Number 14. You are the prophetic disruption their bloodline prayed would never happen. Chosen one, have you ever sensed that your presence alone disturbed people before you even spoke? As if just walking into a space rattled something old, something buried. That's because you weren't just sent as a person. You were sent as a prophetic event. You are the disruption generations feared. What if I told you that the warfare you faced wasn't aimed at you personally, but at the calling you carry? Could it be that you are the fulfillment of a prophecy whispered through time, that someone would come to end the cycle, to reveal the truth, to break the curse? That someone was you. Is not my word like fire, declares the Lord, and like a hammer that breaks a rock in pieces? Jeremiah 23:29. Your presence carries that word. You are the hammer against strongholds. You are heaven's fire to systems built on silence. Think of Harriet Tubman. She didn't come with fame or wealth. She came with holy defiance, and what she did with her life dismantled structures that generations thought untouchable. She didn't need a spotlight, she was the light. And so are you. Have you noticed how some families react to your healing as if it's an insult? How your freedom offends their tradition? That's not because you're wrong. That's because you're rewriting a script they spent decades protecting. You're not repeating history, you're reversing it. The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, to proclaim liberty to the captives and release to the prisoners. Luke 4:18. That's not just for pulpits, that's your very essence. You were born to interrupt what became too comfortable to question. Malala Yousafzai was told to stay quiet, to shrink, to hide, but her voice became an international reckoning. She didn't just survive the bullet, they couldn't stop her purpose. Her testimony became global disruption. Yours carries the same impact. Have you felt like your existence alone invites resistance? It's because your vibration reveals what they hope to keep buried. You are the truth they can't unhear, the mirror they can't break, the prophecy they can't run from. For such a time as this you were born. Esther 4:14. You weren't an accident. You were scheduled. Your timeline is divine. Your presence is timely. And your mission is unavoidable. Look at Kendrick Lamar. His lyrics pierce through generations of silence, exposing generational trauma, systemic lies and spiritual battles, all through art. He became what culture wasn't ready for, but needed. You are the same in spirit, an awakening they feared, but heaven endorsed. They will fight against you, but will not prevail against you, for I am with you, declares the Lord, to deliver you. Jeremiah 1:19. Yes, they fought you, but they couldn't stop what was destined. You weren't the curse, you were the cure. You didn't carry the wound, you carried the healing. You weren't just part of the family tree, you were the axe to every rotting root. And no matter how hard they try to erase your impact, they'll never forget your arrival. Chosen one, you weren't just a turning point, you were the moment their bloodline couldn't ignore. You were the storm and the stillness, the closure and the opening, the prophecy fulfilled. And now, chosen one, stand up, not in fear, not in apology, but in full divine authority. You weren't sent here just to survive the fire. You are the fire, the very flame the darkness feared would awaken. You're not the result of random chance, you're the prophecy that refused to die, the one your ancestors hoped would break free, the one their enemies hoped would never rise. Every lie thrown at you has become your ladder. Every betrayal has become your oil. Every delay has been heaven's way of preparing the stage. The crown wasn't late, it was being polished in private. And now the unveiling is public. The same voices that mocked you will echo your truth. The same crowds that tried to cancel you will carry your message. The same rooms that closed their doors will now build new ones in your honor. You didn't just survive the warfare, you proved what God always knew. You were never the victim, you were the vessel, the disruption to every demonic cycle, the answer disguised in pain, the justice wrapped in humility. And now no demon in hell, no betrayal on earth, no delay in time can undo what has already been sealed in heaven. So don't shrink to make them feel safe. Don't hide your oil because it's too fragrant. Don't apologize for your rise. You are not here to blend in. You are here to set the atmosphere on fire. Let them whisper. Let them wrestle. Let them watch the fulfillment of what they prayed for. Show up wearing your face. This is it. The tables haven't just turned. They've been flipped. Prophetically, permanently, publicly. And now it's not just about your breakthrough. It's about your becoming. To everyone who stayed through this word, thank you, truly. Your time, your energy, your spirit, it all matters. You didn't just watch a message. You stood in alignment with your calling. You gave your attention to truth, and that alone shakes the spiritual atmosphere more than you know. To those who have supported this channel through super thanks, your generosity is deeply seen, deeply honored, and never taken for granted. You're helping carry these prophetic words further into the world. And if you haven't donated, know this: your presence here is already a gift. Every view, every comment, every silent agreement in your spirit is fuel to this divine mission. We're building something sacred together. So may your journey be fierce and your peace unshakable. May your enemies grow tired watching you win. May every chain that ever tried to keep you small break under the weight of your rising. May your voice echo like thunder, your presence shift atmospheres, and your legacy rewrite the story for generations to come. You are blessed, you are chosen, and you are unstoppable. Until next time, stay sharp, stay set apart, stay in alignment. The chosen ones are not just waking up, they're rising, and the world will never be the same. Amen. See you in the next word.